Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Another episode of Trash Talk. I am Damian Hill. With me, as always, is TJ O'Connor. And tonight we are joined once again by Angel Pacheco, who is coming off Dana White's Contender Series. And it didn't necessarily go your way in the ways of looking for a victory, but you were still able to secure the contract. I guess, could you, before we get into that, I guess, could you tell us a little bit about the fight from your perspective? And then go into how you feel knowing that you still secured the contract.
Yeah, for sure. The fight, I expected it to be the hardest fight to date, for sure. I had said it before. Um, Also, I knew he was a very good fighter. I've watched his fights and things like that. Uh, it didn't play out quite the way I expected it to. I don't know if it was just like a lack of focus or what, but I got caught super early in the fight. I didn't know I got caught. I didn't really come to till like the midway to the second round. Uh, so it was like a unique experience. I've been dropped before or whatever. I've been hurt, but I've always been coherent and like conscious of what was going on. And that was kind of the first time I've ever been put on my butt. And then like I literally don't remember the first round. Like I said, I came to midway through the second, and I was like thinking I was still in the first round. So that was kind of a weird experience. I think from getting hurt like that, it kind of just took a little bit of stamina and a little bit of pop of my like punches and stuff. Obviously, that's on me. Like I said, I lost focus for a split second, got dropped, and at this level of the sport, you can't do that. That pretty much cost me the whole fight. I feel like. I mean, I still stuck with it. I still stayed in there. I obviously try to win for 15 minutes, but he was just the better man that night.
Dude, that's crazy that you said that's how you felt, because when somebody gets rocked and they're not necessarily there, as you said, but you're still reacting, still fight. You're fighting on autopilot, dude. And
Yeah.
if you fight that well on autopilot, there's no wonder why Dana White was like, oh no, we need to keep this guy. Um, I guess like the fight didn't go your way. You weren't named the victor, but if that early knockdown didn't happen, I mean, you got tougher as the fight went on. Do you feel like the fight would have went your way if you weren't dropped early?
I mean, obviously, I do feel that way. But this fighting, that's obviously not what happened. Uh, it's hard to say, obviously, because like I said, he is a good fighter. The fight played out the way it did, but I do feel like from getting dropped, it made me a touch shorter, like slower, a touch less powerful. And I after watching the fight back, I know I hurt him a couple times, especially at the end of the first round. I know I hurt him. His legs kind of got wobbled and stuff. I just feel like if I would have been coherent and just, like I said, had that little extra pop, I think I could have put more damage on him, which in the long run would have helped me, obviously. Um, but like I said, it's hard to say really, because he also stuck in there and he also fought through some adversity. It wasn't like just a one-sided beating. My face looked terrible after fight, obviously, but it wasn't. We're both in the hospital, He was swollen as well. I was swollen. I was obviously a little bit worse. From like I got a cut on my eyebrow and I got my ear cut. So I was bleeding a lot more than he was, and he had maybe one cut, but he felt me. He felt me that night. Um, like I said, it's just hard to really know what would happen. I just wish, uh, like I said, I just wish I didn't get caught like that, because I do feel like it took a lot out of me. And like I said, I didn't even know what happened when I was sitting in the ambulance waiting to go to the hospital. I told Brock, I was like, "Yeah, he didn't hit that hard. He never hurt me. He never rocked me or anything like that." And Brock looks at me like crazy, like, "What?" And I'm like, "What?" And then I was like, "What? He never hurt me." I was like, "Yeah, he hit me, but like he never hurt me." And he's like, "Angel, he dropped you in like the first 10 seconds of the fight." I was like, "No, he didn't." I thought he was joking. I thought he was playing with me. And then the dude that was in the ambulance was like, yeah, I watched the fight. Yeah, you got dropped pretty early in that fight. And I was like, what? When did that happen? What did he drop me with? Like, and Brock was just like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I know he dropped you, and you recovered real quick. And I was like, oh, geez, I didn't know. And then, like I said, going into the last round, my corner was like, you got to go. You know, they're trying to inspire me to like really push it. And I'm sitting here thinking, I was just like, yes, sir, listening. But then I was thinking to myself, like, what are you talking about? We got one more round. And then the ref was like, last round, last round. I'm like, oh, what is going on? Like, it was such a weird uh,
Yeah.
scenario to be in, you know?
Dude, that's actually not funny, but like kind of crazy to think about, you know, where you like, oh, being told what had happened in the fight. And speaking as a guy who's been there before, like I
Yeah.
being told afterwards, like, no, they didn't even drop me. What are you talking about? How did I lose that round? They were like, no, you were dropped. No, I wasn't. Like,
Yeah.
it's the worst conversation to have, and it's just like it's so funny to me. But like, one thing that I did notice about the fight, and I know TJ has a question. I'm sorry, TJ, but it looked like you were landing the harder combinations and more combinations, more frequent. You were putting them together so good. Did you feel yourself connecting and landing so much, or or was that part of the autopilot?
For sure, the later rounds, I kind of felt it. The thing is, I was noticing because I do the same kind of thing. Is he was rolling with a lot of the shots really well. Um, so he was taking a lot off of it. But I think what he kind of did better than me is he wasn't moving his feet necessarily. Like I kind of move away from people when I turn with the shot and stuff. So it looks a lot more dramatic, obviously, like my head's turning and things like that. So it looks a lot more painful and things like that. To where he was just like here moving side to side. Um so it I think like watching it back, like I said, I know I was landing well, but he was turning a lot better than I expected him to. Um, and he rolled with the punches and shots really well. That was his defense was much better than I anticipated for sure. So like when it comes to the combinations, like going to the body, the head, and things like that, yeah, I think I was doing better. But he also had his moments too, you know, and that was the big thing too. Talking to my coaches prior to the fight was like, we can't make agreements. It can't be I go, you go, I go. It has to be I go, and then I'm out, sort of thing. Uh, and like I said, I got hurt, so we ended up making those agreements, and it ended up being like a crazy war, obviously. So it's kind of just like I said, it's just kind of how the fight unfolded. And I'm just kind of lucky that Dana still was like, yeah, you're getting in, sort of thing.
Definitely. And I definitely want to touch on that conversation with Dana and ultimately getting in, finding out about the contract. But I've just been sitting here just enjoying this as much as I enjoyed the fight. Like, I mean, we've known each other a long time, and I'm not saying this just because we're talking to you. Seriously, one of the most enjoyable fights I've watched in a long time, and I feel like the reception worldwide was showing that. I mean, the love this fight got on all the social media platforms and everything like that. So sitting here talking to you, and obviously as fighters, you know, we're always hyper self-critical. We always do. And so you're talking about, you know, I feel like I could have done more after landing over 200 strikes in one of the best fights that people have saw in so long. I mean, I love it, and I know that you can. So that's why I'm just sitting here just going, oh man, I can't wait till the next one, because you're gonna take this experience. Going into the fight, in the pre-fight interview, we talked a lot about, you know, going out, training with the cartel, training with those high-level boxers. In retrospect, how much do you think that really benefited you being in there? Because, like you said, it was, I mean, there was a couple grappling exchanges, but this was a high-level boxing match with 4-ounce gloves.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, no, I appreciate everything the guys from the cartel has helped me with. Like, man, I remember my last MMA sparring rounds. I did 2 rounds with Rob, and then 2 rounds with Calvin, and then 2 rounds or 1 round with Chris. And that day was, ooh boy, you talk about a confidence killer. Uh, it was a rough day, you know. Obviously cutting weight and stuff like that, so I'm not quite. Uh, you know, those guys are great fighters, and on top of it, I was just like deflated physically a little bit just from change of diet and things like that. So that was like ugh. And I remember just thinking that day, like, how am I gonna fight if I'm performing like this, you know? And Tyson just kept coming over and like telling me, hey, you know, these days happen to everyone. Um, don't be down on yourself. Don't think about that last round. You just need to go in and, you know, win this next round, sort of thing, in the practice room. And he kind of just kept reminding me, like, you got to push through these things. I know it sucks. I know it's hard, but you got to remember these are like the top guys in the world you're in the room with right now, you know? And I'm like, yep, you know, and it's hard, you know, if you train properly, the fight will be easy compared to the room, you know. And obviously, those guys aren't trying to kill me like Danny was, but man, that day, oof, it's rough. I remember talking to Tyson. I'm like, man, you're gonna have to invite them to your house or something. We gotta do 10 more rounds. I can't do this. I can't go to bed thinking about that beating I took today. But yeah, no, I appreciate those guys. Obviously giving me the work and training with me. But honestly, the biggest part of my fight, I feel like, was like I said, I was on autopilot. So it's everything I've done up to this point, you know. It's the training with Coach Harold, it's the training with my dad, it's the training with Brock, it's just everything together, you know. It's not just 3 weeks of training with the cartel. Like I said, I appreciate those guys, obviously, and it's awesome to work with some of the best fighters in the world, but it's just a compilation of like my life's work, essentially, and building those reactions and skills and stuff like that. And like I said, I feel like it wasn't to my best ability because I was hurt, but it shined through because of the repetition of years of doing it, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way you put that was beautiful. You know, just the years of repetition, doing it all the time makes you able to fight on autopilot when you aren't necessarily there even, dude. And I love it, you know. Now, I guess when you're getting ready for a fight, everybody has good days and they have bad days. You were speaking on it a little bit. It's just one of those things. How is a fighter able to focus, or do you even focus or remember the good days after having a bad day?
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily, I had one more sparring practice before that, but it was big glove sparring, obviously. So it's a little different. It's not like all the grappling and things like that, but so that kind of brought my confidence back a little bit. Obviously, you think, at least for me, I wouldn't say, I guess I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. Like I hate, like I said, honest to God, like that night, after getting beat up by Rob and Calvin and Crix, I was just like, it was hard to sleep because I'm thinking like, man, like I'd made all these mistakes and I'm just like going over it in my head and like, at least for me, it's really hard if I have a day in practice where like if I'm sparring with somebody and they catch me with a really good shot and it bothers me, you know, it bothers me to think, man, this guy got me with this, you know. I don't know. It's just the way I've always kind of been. Even like in a win, I'll always some reason like point out the negative, I guess, and like obviously I'm trying to fix it, and it's not like I dwell on it too much. Um, it's just it's hard for me, and it's same thing with practice though. Like if I get tapped out by a certain submission, I'm mad at myself because I got tapped out with it. I'm trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to stop this from happening again? You know, so it is hard to kind of get past those things, but a good day normally kind of like makes you forget about the bad day. You know,
Yeah.
at least in the room.
Yeah.
100%, and being able to take those experiences and grow with them, obviously. And then so it's kind of what we touched on earlier. You know, you had this beautiful fight. The result wasn't what you wanted, but ultimately the end goal when on the trip to Vegas was to get that UFC contract. Now we've got a little insight with the clip, and I love that clip Cody shared this morning that Tyson was able to record, that intimate moment with you and Dana. Talk to us about that moment when you had a chance to speak with them, and you know, just after the fight, when as it's all coming together, and you ultimately get the news that you did get offered the contract.
So right there in that clip, I didn't know I got the contract at that point. Obviously, I didn't find out about it until I was at the hospital. And this was like maybe an hour later. I don't remember exactly, but when I'm a an emotional person and kind of a crybaby a little bit sometimes with certain things. Like with my family, I'm super emotional. With my teammates, I'm super emotional. I'm just an emotional person. I don't normally cry all the time, but like, if it's my daughter or my wife or my family, like my parents or something, I'll be pretty emotional. So going back, you have to think like, for me, the way I looked at this opportunity was this is my last opportunity to ever get in the UFC. I'm a 31-year-old man. This is my first opportunity going to the UFC. Uh, and I just lost, and normally for the Dana White Contender Series, they don't give losers a contract. It's happened once before, other than the girl before me, and then me. Obviously, it happened once before in like 7 years or whatever. So I went back there thinking I failed, and also not only that I failed, but I couldn't understand why I felt so slow and why I didn't have any pop in my shot. Like I said, at that point, I didn't know I got dropped even. At that point, I thought, what the heck? That fight went quick as heck. And I gassed. It felt like I gassed right away, and I was just confused and like angry at myself. And I felt like I failed Brock. I felt like I failed Tyson. I felt like I failed my family, and like all these emotions, coming through me. And I'm sitting there like telling Brock, I'm sorry. And he's like, no, you should be proud of yourself. Don't be sorry, this and that. And I'm like, I just embarrass us on national TV is the way I looked at it. And then Dana comes back there and talks to me, and he says something about, he says he's going to give me the win money and stuff like that. And I appreciate that, obviously, at the time, but I'm just thinking like, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, I was supposed to be your guy. I'm supposed to be in the UFC. I should be, I should be on a win, and it's just embarrassing. Honestly, it's embarrassing to get, cut up like this, to like, no matter what. Like, I know a lot of people thought the performance was like inspiring and things like that, but to me, it's embarrassing because I expect more of myself, and I didn't perform the way I expected myself to perform is the biggest thing. And like I said, I know Danny was a great fighter or whatever, but I just didn't do what I thought I should have done. And then, he's talking to me and he's like, whatever, about the money. And I'm like, hey, I know this might be a stupid question or stupid thing to ask, but hey, if you can keep me in mind for any short notice fights or anything like that, please consider me, is what I told him. And he was like, you're a crazy kid. Like, no, that's not a dumb question. You're an effing warrior, this and that. And I shook his hand or whatever. He's like, you're the kind of guy I like. And he's like, we'll definitely think of you, is what he told me. Like I said, at that point, he didn't say like you're in or nothing like that. And then I was actually on the phone with Tyler Matheson, talking to him in the hospital. I had just got off the phone with my wife, and then I was talking to him, and he's like, dude, you just got a contract. You just got an effing contract. You're in this and that. I'm like, what? What? I'm thinking like, what are you talking about? He's like, dude, I'm serious. They just gave you a contract. And I'm like, oh my god. Okay, I gotta get off the phone. I'm gonna call my wife. He's like, okay. He's like, congratulations, love you, brother. Da da da. And so I called my wife and talked to her. But that made that made it all worth it. Like, obviously, like I said, it didn't go the way I expected or the way I planned it to, but I'm a strong believer in like, everything happens for a reason. And it's God's plan, essentially. Like, if I wouldn't have won, I would have accepted it and kept moving on with my life. And like I said before, no matter what, my family loves me still, whether I win or lose. So I'm really blessed. I'm really happy that I got the contract, and I'm going to be able to perform in the UFC and fulfill a life's goal. But that doesn't mean anything's over. I have a lot more to accomplish in this sport, and I'm really excited.
Yeah. Dude, what's crazy is that when I was watching that clip, you say that you're emotional, you're crying and everything. And I see that in the video. But when Dana White starts talking to you, dude, it was so hard while he's giving you props and telling you that you got your win money and that you totally dismissed it and asked for a fight, asked to be a replacement, asked for whatever he's willing to give you, dude. I started to tear up and I had goosebumps. Dude, I'm goosebumps right now, my man. I mean, that was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. And I know we got to start wrapping up this interview pretty soon, but I just had to say that before TJ says what he's gonna say. I love you, brother.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
thank you.
100%.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, like I said, 100%. Love that insight. Love getting that emotion. It's why we're fans of the sport, and then to have a personal connection with it as well. Well, I mean, so we put that there. But I guess my final question would be: obviously, we're less than a week post fight. You're still a little bit banged up. You might touched on it. You wanted a short notice fight when you could. How soon are you looking at trying to get back in there and make that official UFC debut?
Yeah. Originally, before the fight, obviously, and everything was done, I was hoping maybe December, but I've heard there's probably not going to be a Minnesota card or anything like that. That it's going to be a different state. So really no rush at this point. I've talked to Brock and I've talked to Tyson. And they think it's probably best, which I agreed with, that I take some time and let my body heal. Obviously, I feel like pretty healthy, like overall, like my whole body. But the eyeball obviously was swollen shut. The ear needs some time too from grappling and stuff like that. So I'm thinking probably early next year. The only way we'd fight, like maybe December, otherwise, is like it's a good opportunity sort of thing. Um, it's hard to say really, but I'm assuming early next year.
Yeah. Well, no matter when it happens, I will be watching. TJ will be watching, and the fans of the show should be watching if they're not. Oh my God, dude, I'm so excited. I'm so happy that you got this contract, my man. I really can't wait to see how the future turns out for you because with your heart, your determination, your dedication, and your ability to fight on autopilot, you have everything that makes a world champion, my man, just without the belt.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, 1,000%, Angel. We always appreciate your time. Just before we do wrap it up, want to give you that time to thank any teammates, sponsors, anybody outside the gym that was there for you for this moment. Platform's yours.
I gotta thank all my sponsors. I actually had a couple people help me out. Just Eric Means, Lupe, Londas, Dave Owens. IRT has always backed me up and things like that. My old employers, pretty much everyone though. Also, all the other sponsors that have ever helped me in the past. It doesn't change anything whether they do or don't sponsor me anymore. It's just been like a big process, obviously. Obviously the cartel out in New Hampshire, Boston area, all those guys. I really fell in love with that room. Like it's a great room and it's just full of killers and there's no restaurants in that room. So it's I'm excited to go back. Obviously it's hard to be away from the family and stuff like that. But man, do I love like I said, there's days obviously where it's like, man, I got beat up today, but it makes me open my eyes and kind of see like, man, I need to improve a lot and do a lot more. Um, Obviously, everybody at Start BJJ, I appreciate everybody there. That's my home gym. I constantly learn there, constantly grow. There's never really a time where I'm like feel stale in our gym either. There's a lot of up and comers that are great. Joey, Tanner, Cody, Derek, all these guys. Obviously, some of them are a little bit bigger than me, but either way, like especially Joey, he's a nightmare to spar with these days. I miss the good old days when I could just dog walk him and kind of beat him up. Now it's just he's dog walking me, so it's not as fun. But yeah, no, all the guys at the gym, Augustine, all of them. Like I'm sure I'm missing some names right now, but I love those guys. They push me every day. And Brock Larson, obviously Tyson, my manager. It's just I'm super happy with my team that I have around me. My dad helps me a lot with practice too, and he's as critical as I am with my performances. So it's nice You know, because he sees certain things, the basics that maybe I got to fix, and I'm excited to work on them with him, and you know, pick his brain a little bit on the fight and what he thought I should have done better. I already got a couple things in mind, but he's always been like how do I put it? Very straightforward, and explains to me like, okay, you did this, this, and this, and you know, he's a lot like me, where we look at the things to fix more than the good, you know. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate everybody at the gym, all the BJJ guys too, that kick my butt on the mats all the time, and the dudes that no one really knows because you know they only do jujitsu or whatever. But man, there's some killers in the gym, and you know, also the gyms we cross train with, you know, McCoon's and wherever else I've gone, Valhalla even. I guess I don't know what their gym is called now. I think it's still Valhalla, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Like we got to go out there, and I got to spar with Josh Clark and you know a couple of their guys too. So I appreciate everybody in Minnesota really. All the gyms being so welcoming to me, and the guys really.
Yeah, dude. I love how you put that. I love the support that you got. You got a lot of people behind you, and you're not able to just thank the people that are there for you right now. I love the way you put it. You love the sponsors and the people that helped you in the process, my man. That was I think that was the best thing I'd ever heard from a fighter when they're giving out their shout outs. You know, I just had to make that clear. But the people watching this video, like this video, subscribe to Trash Talk with Damian and TJ, and support Angel Pacheco in his next fight. He's gonna be in the UFC. Oh my fucking god!
Yes, sir.